I'm Mark Collins. I'm an independent hospitality and food business coach, and I'm doing these podcasts with a number of interesting and experienced hospitality professionals from around the country, specifically with a view to getting their opinions on what's happening out there during this COVID-affected period and any advice that they might give us. These sessions are being sponsored by Burns & Ferrell to help people learn what others are doing in the industry and maybe what they might be able to do with the shared ideas, and at the very least get inspired and get positive. Today I'm spending a few minutes with Ofir Yudilevich, who lives here in Auckland and who owns 3 properties: the Jefferson Whiskey Bar in town, the Billypot, which is a sort of a seafood takeaway down in the fish market on the Wynyard Quarter, and the Paella, which is one of 2 new places that O has opened just prior to the shutdown. And in fact, the staff were employed but haven't even started work, so he's got his hands full. Oh, prior to recording this, I asked you what the most important single thing in your business is. What would you say that is?
Customers' experience, the money will flow from that. So I keep on saying money is the last thing that you should talk about. It will come. It will come if you're doing the right thing.
I agree, and I think you've made some really useful comments about staff, suppliers, and money being the third thing. You talked earlier about customers, and I personally have been of the mind set that the 3 big things are connection with customer, daily management of your numbers, and then I think my third thing is growing the sales, capturing every sale opportunity, and not being too narrow in that mindset. So if it means having 2 or 3 channels to market, that's what you've got to do. And I think you've just expounded on what you would do with regard to your new Commercial Bay properties and how you've added an extra channel to market there. Do you see any opportunity to add a channel to market in any of your other 2 businesses?
So Billypot we've added. So at the moment under level 3, we're only doing takeaway, pick up and go, and a little bit of delivery. So we've added a couple of the apps that you can order through them, and so we will keep that moving forward because there's no point in removing them.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah.
And so it doesn't hurt, that's for sure. So that's not something that we needed or thought about really in the beginning. The aim was to bring people to us, but now as the market changes, again, that will be a flow-on thing that we'll just keep. So that's a positive. The Jefferson really, there's not really much I can change, to be honest with you. And I've had it for 5 years now. I've built it from scratch. And I've had so much pressure on me in the last 5 years to change it based on, different requests from customers. And if I give you the best example, I constantly have arguments with my customers about putting a TV in there for things like the World Cup and so, and I refuse to, because it's not a TV bar, right? It's not a sports bar.
Yeah.
And so, I'll probably be shot for saying this. Luckily, we didn't get to the final of the World Cup. Otherwise, I would have had that argument again. But when we got knocked out, that conversation went out the door. But I mean, that was a good example because I was under a lot of pressure to put a TV in there for the final. And as much as I understand that was a requirement from customers, it's just not within my branding and my business model there. So moving forward to where we are right now, there's a lot of pressure to change a lot of your business models. I think you got to go back and like you said, review your indicators, performance indicators, and your branding and so on, and go, what do I need to keep as part of my DNA, and what can I add on or adapt? And unfortunately for me, well, not unfortunately, the Jefferson for me is one of those brands that I'm very, very protective over.
Yes.
We will add services, like I said, a lot better table service mentality and a lot better communication to our customers, more educational rather than sales. But I'm kind of a little bit hard-headed about changing it.
Well, I think you've hit some really good points there. I think your comment about the Jefferson really indicated it's about knowing your target market. And I think that's critical for every business. And each of your businesses you've talked about the target market. And yes, there's always within any business, whether it's just selling food or it's selling a combination, your regular clients do put pressure on you not to change the menu, or not, you can't take this dish off. And you've got to keep refreshing and keep adapting, but at the same time, hold on to your DNA. And I think what you're talking about there is exactly that. What is the Jefferson's DNA? And obviously you've developed something that works there. And your assessment is that that's valuable moving forward. And in fact, you're trying to improve that under the circumstances of a level 2, as we think we see it unfolding. And certainly, I think that every operator has to be confident. And I think what you're really showing there is being decisive and confident about what you're doing. If you're really wishy-washy about it, you can't deliver anything that is clear to the market and clear to your customers. So I think that's absolutely great advice about knowing your target market and then holding true to your purpose and your values.
No, the only thing I would add to that is don't be hard-headed. I review things on a daily, weekly basis.
I'm sure you do.
What I'm telling you right now, I'm not planning on changing the Jefferson's DNA, which I'm not. It doesn't stop me saying, hey, I think this works. And if in a week or so it doesn't work, we're changing it all around.
Sure.
We'll adapt no matter what. These are
hard.
Let people, trust their business, trust their experience, but also be your own best critic or worst critic, if you know what I mean.
And switch on to that customer
mentality, for sure. Everything's got to be from a customer's mentality. Again, they're asking you to change things. Don't change the menu. Keep the dishes on. That's not necessarily the right or wrong thing to do. You don't have to sit there and explain to them over 3 hours your experience and why you're changing things. You just got to do it and trust that they trust you and your brand. And as they come in, it's not snapper every day. Sometimes it's turkey. Sometimes it's whatever else. So you do need to adapt and change, but always review. I think it's probably wise to write down your 5 key, principles. And whenever you make a decision, bring that little notebook out. And do that as often as you need to. And if you need to change things, then change them, as long as it keeps within your principles and your integrity.
That's excellent advice. Now, because we're looking for innovation and adaptation, I wondered whether you'd repositioned any of your assets, and specifically things like, I guess, expertise within your staff base, maybe some equipment that you weren't using that you think that you could bring a new product line in. Maybe ways that you're using your Rationale oven that you didn't use before. We have tools and things that we only half use, and this is maybe an opportunity to dig in and to get more use out of some of our existing assets. Have you got any thoughts on that?
Like I said, staff is your best asset, and obviously my guys and girls, instead of working in their own tenancy, have understood that they're working for the bigger company. And so they're all helping out wherever they can. They're all cross-training, which is good for me, but it's also good for them because they then have bigger employment opportunities to get some more hours once we get going. So that's an easy one to talk about. Equipment is slightly harder, but you mentioned Rationale, which is a good example. Rationale ovens are the Ferraris of this world, and they can do just about anything. So don't buy a steamer and buy an oven and buy a grill. Just buy one piece of equipment and does it all. And, if we talk about moving things around, for example, when we first opened the Jefferson, it had a lot more food orientated revenue streams, right? I would say it was probably 40% food, 60% beverage. Currently, I'm running 95% beverage and 5% food. And this is pre-COVID, right? And so a lot of that really good, high value kitchen equipment in there is just not used. It's just a waste. I've got 2 Rationale ovens in there, which is crazy. And so we've taken one out and we've put it into a new tenancy and so on. And so yes, move your, if you're lucky enough like me and you've got new tenancies, you can move stuff around. But otherwise, maybe look at selling it and get some money out of it. Or like you said, maybe add something to the menu or to your product line that puts that equipment to use. In a takeaway era, those certain ovens can hold food, can regenerate food.
And batch cook some product that
yeah.
Maybe a mindset change for your business. No, look, I think that's really useful. And maybe just to close, what advice, you've given a lot of advice today, and some of it's been absolutely classic. What advice on an emotional level would you give to someone who hasn't long been in the industry and just been caught blindsided by this timing and is really fronting some of these big challenges for the first time?
Yeah. I guess my best advice is don't be emotional, right? This is a business, and so you've got to look at it from a business point of view. You might love your brand and so, but it's not, if it doesn't work and you need to walk away from it, then by all means walk away from it. You'll come back again strong. We all have things that work or not. In the beginning, I said to you, this latest one that I'm working on is my 11th project. Some have failed, some have won, and the ones that have failed are the ones that we got out of or didn't carry through was the ones that we kind of looked at and while emotionally we were upset and heavily invested in it, the numbers and the reality said that this is not a go, not yet in New Zealand, maybe shelve it for a few years or do something else. But I guess on an emotional point of view, we're all going through a hard time. While I'm sitting here, talking to you about advice and so on, I'm just the same as all of us. My bank account is zero. We're going backwards. We've gone to our banks and we're operating on overdrafts right now, which is a very stressful period for all of us. And again, with a little bit of uncertainty, a lot of uncertainty for the future, we don't know what's going on. So stress is high, but do not get angry because that's not going to achieve anything. And like we started saying in the beginning of this podcast, talking about the negatives and concentrating on what doesn't work is not going to get you working again. So just fall in love again with your business. Open it in the first place. What did you try and achieve? What worked? Concentrate on that, and the things that don't work, cancel them out really, really fast, and get yourself feeling better. I mean, we are stressed and we are all upset and we are angry, but whether you vote for National or Labour, they're trying to do whatever they can do, and so just get through it. You can't do anything but get through it.
Yeah, I think there's a great quote somewhere floating around from when the NASA team were flying that to the moon and something went wrong. The first time to the moon. It's pretty serious sort of shit, right? Yeah. And something went wrong, and they said, well, we've got to work within the problem, and that's the case here. It's everyone's in this together, and we have to work within the problem. And I guess your advice about not getting angry and not getting emotional, whilst that is going to be challenging for some people, that's absolutely the only way forward. So,
anyway, yeah.
So thank you very much, O. That's been wonderful.
Pleasure
talking with you, and thank you very much for so generously sharing your experience. I think a wealth of advice for people, and very positive, and I really appreciate the time.
You're welcome. Yeah.
And good luck with what we've got in front of us, my friend.
Yeah, bring it on, mate.
That's the attitude.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, bye now.
Bye.
Bye.